Japan's wilderness holds secrets that have haunted travelers for centuries. From the dense forests at Mount Fuji's base to Hokkaido's remote mountains, the Japanese landscape harbors stories that blur reality and nightmare. These aren't urban legends, they're documented cases of campers who ventured into remote areas only to encounter experiences that challenge our understanding of the natural world. In Japanese folklore, mountains house spirits called yamabiko entities that mimic human voices and lead travelers astray. Traditional beliefs speak of kamikakushi being spirited away by supernatural forces. While modern minds dismiss these as superstition, documented disappearances and bizarre encounters suggest some mysteries remain unsolved. What makes Japan's camping horror stories particularly unsettling is their grounding in reality. These documented incidents have puzzled authorities and left families with more questions than answers. The SOS incident in Mount Asahi's Daisetsuzan National Park in 1989 exemplifies this. Two lost mountaineers were rescued after teams spotted a large SOS message built from birch logs, but the mountaineers hadn't created it. Japan's geography contributes to these mysteries. With over 70% mountainous terrain covered by forests, countless isolated pockets exist where reality operates by different rules. The forest density mutes all sounds, creating natural acoustical isolation that can't explain all reported phenomena. Recent incidents continue adding to Japan's wilderness mysteries. Foreign hikers like Tefine Veron, missing since 2018, and Patty Wu Murad, whose remains were found 2 years after disappearing, show how Japan's wilderness can swallow people without trace. You're about to hear 3 disturbing, well-documented camping stories from Japan. The mysterious SOS signal that saved lives while revealing deeper mystery, the modern horror of randomly selected coordinates leading to supernatural terror, and Aokigahara Forest's ongoing enigma where living and dead boundaries blur. These stories remind us that despite technological advances, places still exist where the inexplicable holds sway. Japan's wilderness guards its secrets jealously. Chapter 2. The SOS that saved lives but revealed a greater mystery. On July 24, 1989, 2 Tokyo mountaineers found themselves lost in the vast wilderness of Daisetsuzan National Park on Japan's northern island of Hokkaido. What should have been a routine rescue operation became one of Japan's most perplexing wilderness mysteries, a case that continues to baffle investigators more than 3 decades later. The 2 men were mountaineering on the path from Mount Kurodake to Mount Asahi when they became lost. Rather than following the path, they turned around and started heading south toward the Chubetsugawa River. When they failed to arrive at their expected destination, authorities launched a helicopter search operation. What the rescue teams found would change the course of the search from a simple rescue to a complex investigation. The search team spotted a large SOS message built from fallen birch logs. The letters were massive, clearly visible from the air, constructed with an engineering precision that suggested considerable time and effort. The helicopter crew immediately assumed the lost hikers had created this distress signal and focused their search in that area. They successfully located and rescued the 2 men, but when questioned, both hikers adamantly denied creating the SOS sign. They had never been to that specific location, and neither possessed the tools or physical capability to move the enormous birch logs that formed the letters. The sign was composed of large, heavy fallen birch trees, and experts estimate it would have taken 2 days and incredible effort to make such a large sign. Intrigued by this mystery, authorities returned the next day with a larger search team. What they discovered near the SOS sign defied explanation and transformed the case from curious to deeply disturbing. In a hole near the SOS, just big enough to squeeze in a single person, they found an abandoned backpack. In the bag were 4 cassette tapes, a tape recorder, some jewelry, a tripod, a pair of men's basketball shoes, 2 cameras, and a notebook. There was also a human skull and a driver's license belonging to a 25-year-old male called Kenji Iwamura. Kenji Iwamura had been missing for 5 years. He had gone missing 5 years earlier on July 10, 1984, after setting out on a hiking trip in the region. The alarm had been raised a week later when he had failed to turn up for work. Despite extensive searches at the time, no trace of him had been found. Now, 5 years later, his possessions were discovered in one of the most remote areas of the park, alongside a mysterious SOS sign that had saved 2 different hikers. The contents of Iwamura's backpack revealed disturbing details about his final days. When authorities played the cassette tapes, they heard Iwamura's voice desperately calling for rescue. documenting his deteriorating condition as he faced death alone in the wilderness. The investigation took an even stranger turn when a cutout of artwork of magical Princess Minky Momo was used as a case for the cassette tape. This bizarre detail added an almost surreal element to an already mysterious case. Why would a 25-year-old man hiking alone carry anime memorabilia, and what was its significance in his final moments? Aerial photography provided another crucial piece of evidence. The Japan Forestry Agency and the Japan Geographical Authority took a look at previous topographic map data used to find aerial photographs, in which it was confirmed that the SOS sign was in the images taken on September 20th, 1987. This meant the sign had been in place for at least 2 years before it saved the lives of the lost hikers and 3 years after Iwamura's disappearance. The human remains discovered at the site created additional confusion. Medical examiners were also claiming the bones may belong to more than one person. Investigators now believe that 2 men and a woman had gone missing at the park, but they only had Iwamura's belongings to work with. There was also no record of a missing woman, and those who knew Iwamura said he would have gone hiking alone. This mystery persisted until February 1990, when it was announced that the bones had been re-examined. The police now believe they belong to one skeleton, which was actually male, not female. Most likely Kenji Iwamura had died on the mountainside, and the skeleton was his. The case was officially closed, but critical questions remain unanswered. If Iwamura died in 1984, who built the SOS sign that appeared in aerial photographs 3 years later? The physical evidence suggests it would have required multiple people working for days to construct such a massive signal. Could other missing hikers have used Iwamura's campsite and built the sign? Or does this case point to something more inexplicable, a supernatural intervention that defies rational explanation? The biggest concern is who made the SOS sign. The letters were made by stacking large, heavy fallen birch trees, and experts estimate it would have taken 2 days and incredible effort to make such a sign. The problem is it's hard to believe Kenji Iwamura would have been able to build such a sign. Local authorities and mountaineering experts have proposed various theories, but none adequately explain all the evidence. Some suggest that other missing hikers might have discovered Iwamura's remains and built the SOS sign using his belongings as motivation. Others point to the possibility of unknown individuals who were never reported missing. However, the precise construction of the sign, its strategic placement for aerial visibility, and its appearance years after Iwamura's death continue to puzzle investigators. The Kenji Iwamura case represents more than just a tragic hiking accident. It embodies the type of mystery that makes Japan's wilderness so unsettling, cases where documented facts lead to impossible conclusions, where the line between natural and supernatural becomes increasingly blurred. In the end, the SOS sign served its intended purpose by saving the lives of 2 lost hikers, but it also opened a window into the deeper mysteries that lurk within Japan's remote mountains. Chapter 3. In the age of digital exploration, when satellite imagery allows us to scout virtually any location on Earth from the comfort of our homes, a group of Japanese university students made a decision that would haunt them forever. Their story, documented in detail by one of the participants, represents a modern camping horror that combines 21st century technology with ancient fears. It was a little before university summer break when a group of 4 friends decided to try something different for their reunion. Instead of visiting familiar tourist destinations, one of them suggested, "How about we pick a random place on Google Maps and go camping?" This seemingly innocent idea would lead them to an encounter that defied rational explanation. The group methodically scanned Google Maps for the perfect random camping spot. Eventually, we spotted a place in the Chugoku region in western Japan that looked like it had a forest road running through it and no houses around. Zooming in, we saw there was an open spot by a river which looked perfect for camping. The location appeared ideal, remote, enough for solitude, accessible by car, with fresh water nearby. None of them had ever been to western Japan, which added to the appeal of the adventure. Their preparation was thorough and practical. The 4 of us all come from eastern Japan and didn't know much about the West, and it seemed to match exactly what we were after in terms of location and geography. We decided on that as our campsite. They purchased supplies for 3 days, including enough food and water to sustain them in the wilderness. The trip began like any normal camping adventure, friends excited about exploring an unknown destination together. By late afternoon that same day, we arrived near our destination. We ate and took a bath at a local hot spring facility, kind of like a supercenter, then slept on a bench in a nearby park. The next day, we stocked up on enough water and food at a local convenience store and supermarket to last 3 days, and headed to our chosen spot. What happened next transformed their innocent camping trip into a nightmare that would affect them for years to come. While the complete details of their supernatural encounter aren't fully documented due to the traumatic nature of the experience, the narrator's conclusion provides chilling insight into what they faced in that remote forest. Since then, nothing out of the ordinary has happened to any of us. We still have no clue what really went down that night, but even now, I'm sometimes afraid of the dark. Not constantly, but once in a while, I feel like I might hear that singing or sense some presence lurking out there in the pitch black. The reference to singing is particularly disturbing. In Japanese folklore, mysterious voices in the wilderness are often associated with supernatural entities trying to lure humans to their doom. The yamabiko, mountain spirits known for mimicking human voices, are said to call out to travelers, leading them away from safe paths and into dangerous territory. Could the students have encountered something that exists between folklore and reality? This case represents a unique type of modern horror, the intersection of technology with ancient mysteries. Google Maps showed them a location that appeared completely normal from satellite imagery, but the ground truth revealed something far more sinister. The irony is striking. Technology that was meant to democratize exploration and make the wilderness more accessible instead led them directly into an encounter with the inexplicable. The psychological aftermath described by the narrator suggests their experience went far beyond typical camping discomforts or natural phenomena. The lingering fear of darkness, the persistent sense of being watched, and the specific mention of mysterious singing all point to an encounter that left deep psychological scars. These aren't the symptoms of someone who simply got spooked by unfamiliar forest sounds, they suggest exposure to something genuinely otherworldly. The story also highlights how modern camping culture can inadvertently lead people into dangerous situations. The random selection of coordinates, while exciting in theory, bypass the accumulated wisdom of local knowledge. Traditional camping relied on established sites that had been used safely for generations. By choosing a completely random location, the students unknowingly entered territory that might have been avoided by locals for very good reasons. Japan's wilderness contains countless locations that exist in legal and cultural grey areas, places that aren't officially restricted but aren't actively promoted for recreation either. These areas often have histories that don't appear in tourist guides or on digital maps. The forest the students chose might have been the site of historical tragedies, spiritual significance, or other factors that would make locals reluctant to camp there. The fact that all 4 students were affected suggests their experience was shared and consistent, ruling out individual psychological episodes or misperceptions. When multiple witnesses report the same supernatural phenomena, it becomes much harder to dismiss as imagination or hallucination. Their collective testimony carries weight precisely because they have no apparent motive to fabricate such a story. What makes this case particularly unsettling is its accessibility. Unlike remote mountain peaks or dangerous wilderness areas that require significant hiking experience, this location was accessible by car and appeared completely normal on satellite imagery. This suggests that supernatural encounters aren't limited to Japan's most remote or dangerous areas, they can happen to anyone, anywhere, with little warning. The student's story serves as a cautionary tale for the digital age. While technology has made it easier than ever to explore unknown places, it can't reveal the full truth about a location's history or the forces that might inhabit it. Sometimes the wisdom of avoiding certain places isn't based on superstition, it's based on experiences that defy conventional explanation, but are no less real for those who encounter them. Their random coordinates led them to something that continues to haunt them years later, a reminder that Japan's wilderness still holds secrets that no amount of technology can fully reveal or prepare us for. Chapter 4. At the northwestern base of Mount Fuji lies a forest that has become synonymous with death, mystery, and supernatural encounters. Aokigahara Forest, covering 90 square miles or 35 square kilometers, is not only home to stunning ice caves, but also to ghosts, monsters, and goblins. But beyond its reputation as a location for suicide, Aokigahara harbors camping experiences that blur the line between the natural and supernatural in ways that continue to disturb those brave enough to spend a night within its depths. For paranormal investigators, Japan's suicide forest has been on their bucket list ever since it first gained international attention. However, What many don't realize is that camping within Aokigahara isn't just psychologically challenging, it's a journey into a realm where normal rules of perception and reality seem suspended. The forest's unique geological and botanical characteristics contribute to its otherworldly atmosphere. Most of the forest soil consists of volcanic rock. These rocks make the ground uneven and difficult to walk on. The tangled tree roots make things even more challenging. But the most unsettling aspect is the acoustic isolation. The denseness of the forest mutes all sounds. At some parts of the forests, the vegetation is so dense, the wind doesn't even get through. Animals seem to avoid the forest, so basically all you hear is the sound of your own breathing. This natural sensory deprivation creates an environment where the mind becomes hyper-aware of any unusual stimuli. Campers report that the silence is so complete it becomes almost physical, pressing against their eardrums and creating a sense of being cut off from the outside world entirely. In this void, even the smallest unexplained sound takes on ominous significance. The forest's dark history extends far beyond its modern reputation. Aokigahara has been associated with death for centuries. The forest was popular for the Ubasute ritual in the 19th century. Literally, this ritual means leaving. When food was scarce, sons carried their elderly parents to the forest on their backs. They would leave them behind without any food or water. This historical connection to abandonment and death has, according to local belief, saturated the forest with spiritual energy. That might explain the amount of yurei in the forest. These are evil spirits who want to take revenge on those who did them wrong. They are also tormenting people who visit the forest, luring those who are sad and lost off the path. For campers, especially those spending nights in the forest, these spiritual presences reportedly become much more active after darkness falls. Modern camping experiences in Aokigahara reveal patterns of supernatural encounters that go beyond mere psychological suggestion. The campground was located in Aokigahara by one of the lakes at the base of Mount Fuji. With it being mid-January, it got really cold really quickly. It got down to 17 degrees Fahrenheit that night. Even in established camping areas at the forest's edge, visitors report experiences that challenge rational explanation. The physical discomfort of winter camping in Aokigahara is compounded by psychological stresses that seem unique to the location. Thank goodness for the fire that we built to stay warm. Campers consistently report that maintaining a fire becomes not just a matter of physical comfort, but psychological necessity, as if the light serves as protection against something more than just the cold. During daylight exploration, the forest reveals evidence of its tragic purpose. Out of respect to the Japanese and those who lost their lives in this forest, this is the only picture that I will share that shows one of the ribbons. I am only sharing this one because I know this isn't attached to someone anymore. These ribbons, left by those contemplating suicide to mark their path, serve as constant reminders of the forest's association with human tragedy. Camping in the forest is against the law. People who bring a tent are usually people who are having thoughts about killing themselves. The police and volunteers always try to talk people out of their desperate action. This prohibition adds another layer of complexity for those seeking to experience the forest overnight. Legitimate researchers and paranormal investigators must work within legal boundaries, while still attempting to document the supernatural phenomena reported within Aokigahara's depths. The forest's influence on visitors appears to persist long after they leave. Those who have spent nights in or near Aokigahara frequently report lasting psychological effects, persistent dreams, unexplained anxiety, and a lingering sense of being watched. Some describe feeling marked by their experience, as if something from the forest has followed them home. The supernatural encounters reported in Aokigahara aren't limited to visual phenomena. Campers describe hearing voices calling their names, footsteps that don't belong to any living person, and the sensation of invisible hands touching them in the darkness. The complete silence of the forest makes these experiences even more pronounced. When you can normally hear your own heartbeat, any external sound becomes impossible to ignore. It won't surprise you that this forest attracts people. Many books have been written about it, and movies, like anime and manga movies, comics, games, and music have been made on the subject. However, the fictional portrayals often fail to capture the true psychological impact of spending extended time within the forest's boundaries. Temperature fluctuations that don't correspond to weather patterns, compass malfunctions, and electronic device failures are commonly reported by those camping in or near Aokigahara. These technical difficulties, combined with the forest's natural navigation challenges, can quickly transform a planned overnight stay into a survival situation. The most disturbing aspect of Aokigahara camping experiences may be the way the forest seems to amplify negative emotions and thoughts. Visitors consistently report that spending time in the forest makes them more susceptible to despair, anxiety, and dark thoughts, even those who arrived in positive mental states. This psychological influence appears to be cumulative, becoming stronger with extended exposure. For those who have successfully camped in or near Aokigahara and lived to tell about it, the experience represents a unique form of psychological endurance test. They describe emerging from the forest fundamentally changed, with a deeper appreciation for life, but also a lasting awareness of how thin the barrier between our world and whatever lies beyond can become. Aokigahara Forest stands as perhaps the most concentrated example of Japan's supernatural wilderness. It's a place where the accumulated weight of human tragedy, natural isolation, and spiritual belief has created an environment where camping becomes less about connecting with nature and more about confronting the deepest mysteries of existence itself. For those brave enough to spend a night within its boundaries, Aokigahara offers an encounter with the unknown that few other places on Earth can match.